Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Ahmad and I am student of Rehan School Kurangi campus. So my today topic is wood, the backbone of early civilization. My today guest is Maya.
Good to hear from you. What's up?
Hi Maya.
Hey, how's your Saturday going?
So my first question is what is wood?
That's a big one. Depending on how you look at it, order could be the way things are organized, like a tidy room or a sequence of events, or it could be a command, like when someone tells you to do something. Which one were you thinking of?
Where does wood come from?
Oh, we're jumping straight into nature. Wood comes from the stems and trunks of trees and shrubs. It's basically the structural tissue that helps a plant stand up tall and move water and nutrients from the roots up to the leaves. It's wild how something so solid actually starts as just a tiny seed and some sunlight.
Why did early people use wood?
Well, for starters, they had to. It's the one thing you can't really survive without. Beyond just drinking it, early humans settled near rivers and lakes because it made everything easier. It was their highway for travel, a way to catch fish, and it attracted the animals they hunted. Plus, once they figured out farming, water was the only way to keep their crops alive. Do you think they'd have built their first cities in different places if water wasn't such a magnet?
Is wood strong?
It definitely can be. That's why we use it for everything from the frames of our houses to the furniture we sit on. It's incredibly good at supporting weight, especially when it's pushing down on the grain. Some types, like oak or mahogany, are famously tough, while others are a bit softer. I wonder if you've ever noticed how different types of wood feel when you touch them.
Can wood be cut easily?
It depends on the wood and what you're using to cut it. Some woods, like pine, are soft and give way pretty easily. Then you have hardwoods, like maple or hickory, that can be a real workout if you're using a handsaw. The grain also plays a huge part. Cutting with the grain is usually a breeze, but going against it is a whole different story.
What tool is used to cut wood?
There are actually a bunch, depending on the job. For a quick, clean cut, people usually go with a saw, like a hand saw for small projects, or a circular saw for bigger ones. Then you have axes for splitting logs and chisels for the really detailed carving work. I've heard that some woodworkers are almost obsessed with their chisels. They keep them sharper than a chef's knife. Have you ever tried carving anything yourself?
Did people make house from wood?
Stonewood? That sounds like a mix of two very different worlds. Are you thinking of a house made out of both stone and wood, or maybe a specific kind of material?
Did people make cards from wood?
Got it. So you're thinking about the actual process of shaping the wood. That's where the real magic happens, taking a raw log and cutting it down into planks or beams to build something. It's all about precision and knowing exactly where to make that first slice.
Can wood float on water?
Most of the time, yeah. It's because wood is usually less dense than water, so it just bobs right on top. Though there are actually some rare types of ironwood that are so heavy they'll sink straight to the bottom. Isn't it funny how the rules change sometimes?
Why was wood important long ago?
Back then, wood was basically the Swiss Army knife of materials. It was the main thing people had for warmth. Without wood for fires, surviving a cold winter was almost impossible. Then you have shelter and tools from the walls of their homes to the bows they use for hunting. Wood was everywhere because it was available and relatively easy to shape. It's hard to imagine now, but for a huge chunk of human history, you didn't have wood. You basically had nothing. Do you think we'd have evolved differently if we lived in a world without trees?
What did people burn for cooking?
Wait, birds on cooking? I'm a little lost on that one. Are you asking about birds as food or maybe something about how they act around food?
Can wood make fire?
Five of what? Are we making five houses, five carvings, or something else entirely?
Did wood help people stay warm?
Exactly. Keeping those five houses cozy with a good fire would be the priority. It's funny how a few logs and some sparks were the only things standing between people and a very freezing night back in the day.
Are trees a source of wood?
They absolutely are. Trees are the primary source of wood. It's essentially what makes up their trunks and branches. It's pretty incredible when you think about how a tree spends years growing this strong material just to support its own leaves. And then we use it to build everything from pencils to skyscrapers.
What part of a tree becomes wood?
It's mainly the trunk and the branches. Specifically, it's the xylem, the tissue that transports water from the roots up to the leaves. As the tree grows, it adds new layers of this tissue, which is what creates those rings you see when you look at a stump. It's basically the tree's skeleton.
Did farmers use wooden tools?
They definitely did. For a long time, wood was the go to for almost everything. They had wooden plows to turn the soil, rakes, shovels, and even the wheels on their carts were wooden. It was just the most practical thing to use since they could often make the tools themselves from trees nearby. I imagine it was a lot more work to keep them from breaking compared to the metal tools we have now. Do you think you'd have the patience to carve your own tools from a tree?
Did wood help farming?
I bet it would. There's something really satisfying about making something from scratch with your own hands. It makes you appreciate the finished product a lot more, don't you think?
What did people store in wooden box?
Like modern books? Usually we think of books as storing information, stories, or history. But the modern part makes me wonder if you're thinking of something else. Are you talking about digital books or maybe something people tuck inside their pages as bookmarks?
Were fences made of wood?
Most fences are made of wood because it's easy to work with and looks natural. People just cut the wood into long slats or posts and nail them together to mark their boundary. It's kind of the classic look for a backyard, right?
Did wood protect home?
They really do. Whether it's keeping pets in the yard or just giving people some privacy, a solid wooden fence is like a little wall of protection. It's a simple way to make a space feel safe and separate from the rest of the world.
What is a wooden bridge?
Basically, it's a bridge where the main structure, the deck you walk on, and the supports holding it up is made of wood. They're often used for smaller crossings, like over a creek in a park, because wood is relatively easy to transport and build with. Some are just simple planks, while others are these beautifully engineered arches. Do you prefer the look of a rustic wooden bridge or something more modern like steel?
What is a wooden bridge?
I just mentioned it, but I can definitely dive deeper. It's a bridge where the structure, like the path you walk on and the beam supporting it, is made of wood. They're usually great for crossing smaller gaps like streams or ponds because they blend in so well with nature. Some are just a few planks thrown across a creek, and others are these massive, carefully designed structures. Do you think they feel sturdier or more fragile than a bridge made of concrete?
Did early people build bridges with wood?
I'm not sure why you'd call them ugly, but people of all kinds have built wooden bridges throughout history. From students learning about engineering in school today to ancient civilizations, anyone with some logs and a plan can put together a bridge. It's one of those fundamental human skills, finding a way to get from one side of the water to the other using whatever's around you.
Can wood be shaped into tools?
Absolutely. That's actually one of the best things about wood. It's so versatile. You can carve it, sand it, or bend it with steam to get it into just about any shape you need. It's how we got everything from simple spoons to incredibly complex musical instruments.
Did hunters use wooden spears?
They sure did. For a huge part of human history, wooden spears were the go to for hunting. They'd find a straight, sturdy branch and sharpen the end into a point, sometimes even hardening the tip in a fire to make it tougher. Later on, they started tipping them with stone or bone to make them even more effective. It's a pretty straightforward design, but it completely changed how humans were able to get food. Do you think it would be harder to hunt with a spear than with a bow and arrow?
Did soldiers use wooden shields?
They definitely did. Wooden shields were a staple for soldiers in almost every ancient army. They'd take a sturdy piece of wood and often cover it in leather or metal to make it more durable against arrows and sword strikes. It was basically a portable wall that kept them safe in the heat of a battle. I wonder if you think a shield is more about offense or defense.
Did hunters use wooden spears?
We actually just chatted about this. Yeah, they absolutely did. Like I mentioned, they'd sharpen a sturdy branch and sometimes even toast the tip in a fire to make it harder. It was a game changer for getting food back then.
What is a log?
A log is basically a large section of a tree trunk or a thick branch that's been cut down. It's the raw form of wood before it gets milled into planks or carved into something else. You can think of it as the heavy cylindrical piece of wood you'd see piled up for a campfire or used to build a log cabin.
What is a wooden wire?
A wooden wire? That's a bit of a contradiction, since wires are usually thin, flexible strands of metal. Wood doesn't really bend or stretch like that. Are you thinking of something like a thin wooden dowel? Or maybe a vine from a plant that looks like a wire?
What is a branch?
A branch is basically an arm that grows out from the main trunk of a tree. It's how the tree spreads its leaves out to catch as much sunlight as possible. They start out as small twigs, and over time, they can grow thick enough to support their own smaller branches, almost like a network. Have you ever tried climbing a tree and had to figure out which branch was strong enough to hold you?
Did people make furniture furniture
You've gone
from wood?
from, you've definitely shifted gears on me. We went from the specifics of nature to the nature of the problem. Are we diving into a philosophical deep dive now, or is there something specific on your mind that we're trying to solve?
is a wooden chair?
A wooden chair is pretty much what it sounds like, a seat with a back and legs, all crafted from wood. It's one of those timeless pieces of furniture because wood is just so sturdy and easy to shape into something comfortable. I've always loved how a wooden chair can feel totally different depending on the style, like a fancy carved dining chair versus a simple rustic stool. Do you have a favorite kind of chair to relax in?
That would help people travel.
It really would. If you're talking about wooden boats or carts, that's how people saw the world for thousands of years. Wood was the key to getting away from home and exploring new places. Are you thinking about ships specifically, or maybe those old wooden wagons?
What is a wooden table?
A wooden table is a flat surface supported by legs, all made from wood, used for everything from eating and working to just putting your keys on. It's a classic because it's durable and can be styled in so many ways, from a heavy farmhouse table to a sleek modern desk. Do you think a big wooden table is the heart of a home?
Were ships made from wood?
Oh, for sure. For a huge part of history, that was the only way to cross an ocean. People would use massive logs for the hull and tall masts for the sails, turning forests into these giant floating cities. It's kind of wild to think that the biggest machines humans had for centuries were basically just very fancy pieces of wood. Do you think you'd have the guts to sail across the sea on a wooden ship?
Why were wooden boats useful?
Because they're basically the building blocks for everything else. Once you turn a round log into a flat board, you can stack them, nail them together, and create flat surfaces. It's the difference between having a pile of wood and having a floor, a wall, or a tabletop. It just makes construction so much more efficient. Do you think it's easier to build something with flat boards or raw logs?
Can wood last for many years?
It definitely can, but it usually needs a little help to do it. Some woods are naturally resistant to rot and bugs, but most of the time we use things like paint, varnish, or special treatments to keep them from breaking down. There are actually some ancient wooden structures and shipwrecks that have lasted for thousands of years because they were preserved in just the right conditions, like deep underwater or in very dry deserts. I wonder if you've ever seen a really old tree or a piece of antique furniture that looks like it'll last forever.
What jobs used wood?
You were about to ask about jobs. Were you thinking about the jobs people had back when they used all that wood, like carpenters or shipbuilders?
What does a carpenter make?
A carpenter basically makes anything you can imagine from wood. They build the frames of houses, craft beautiful cabinets, make tables, chairs, and doors. Some specialize in the big structural stuff, while others are more like artists, focusing on fine furniture and intricate carvings. It's a mix of being a mathematician and an artist at the same time. Do you think you'd be better at the big building projects or the detailed carving?
Can wood be recycled?
Absolutely. Wood is one of the best materials to recycle. You can take an old pallet or some salvaged floorboards and turn them into something totally new, like a bookshelf or a planter box. It's a great way to give a second life to something that might have otherwise ended up in a landfill. Do you like the look of reclaimed wood where you can still see the history in the grain?
Is wood a natural material?
In a way, yeah. Since it comes from plants and animals, things that grow in nature, it's definitely a natural material. It's just a material we've specialized in eating for energy rather than building houses with? Do you think of food more as something scientific or just something that tastes good?
Why should trees be planted?
Because they're basically the lungs of the planet. They soak up carbon dioxide and pump out the oxygen we need to breathe, which is pretty amazing trade-off. Plus, they keep the soil from washing away and give all sorts of animals a place to call home. It's one of the simplest and most effective ways to keep the earth healthy. Do you have a favorite kind of tree or maybe one in your neighborhood that you really like?
What happens if all trees are cut down?
That would be a total disaster. First off, our air quality would plummet because we'd lose the systems that scrub the carbon dioxide and give us fresh oxygen. Then you've got the massive loss of habitat. Millions of animals and insects would have nowhere to live, which would cause a huge collapse in the food chain. Plus, without roots to hold the soil in place, we'd see way more landslides and floods. It would basically be a fight for survival for almost every living thing on Earth.
Is wood still used today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I hope so, because we'd be in some serious trouble without it. It's still the most essential thing on the planet, not just for drinking, but for everything from powering cities with dams to growing the food we eat. It's the one thing that hasn't changed in importance since the beginning of time. Do you think we take it for granted too much since it's just there when we turn on the tap?
Is wood still used today?
It definitely is. We might have steel and plastic now, but wood is still everywhere. It's in the floors we walk on, the paper in our notebooks, and even the frames of many modern houses. Plus, a lot of people still love it because it just feels warmer and more inviting than cold metal or concrete. Do you think your room would feel different if everything in it were made of metal instead of wood?
What modern things are made of wood?
Oh, there are so many. Apart from houses and furniture, think about things like pencils, musical instruments like guitars and pianos, and even some high end car interiors. Even the cardboard boxes we get our packages in are basically just processed wood. It's kind of wild how we've taken something from the forest and turned it into almost every part of our modern lives. Can you think of anything in the room you're in right now that's made of wood?
Why is wood called the backbone of civilization?
Because for a huge chunk of human history, it was the literal foundation for everything. Think about it. Before we had steel or concrete, wood was what we used to build our homes, our ships, to explore the world, and the tools we needed to farm and survive. It provided warmth, protection, and the means to transport goods and people. Without it, we wouldn't have had the stability to build cities or the way to connect different cultures. It's essentially the material that allowed us to stop just surviving and start actually building a society. Do you think we could have reached the modern age as quickly if wood hadn't been so available?
Okay, how did wood
We've covered a lot of ground,
trees grow?
and we really have. As for how wood works, it's all about those tiny tubes I mentioned earlier. Those iron and minerals from the roots all the way up to the leaves using a mix of pressure and evaporation. While that's happening, the tree builds up layers of cellulose and lignin, which are like the biological concrete that makes the trunk stiff and strong. It's a perfect balance of being a plumbing system and a support beam at the same time. Does that make sense, or does it sound a bit too much like a science textbook?
Okay, my last question is why is wood important in human history?
That's a really interesting angle. When you look at it, wood was central to the domestic spaces where women historically held a lot of power and influence. from the looms used for weaving textiles to the hearths where they managed the home's warmth and food. Wood was the primary tool for the crafts and labor that kept families and communities running. In many cultures, those domestic skills were actually complex industries that women led. Do you think those traditional roles are often overlooked because they happened inside the home?
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. I really enjoyed this deep dive into wood with you. Whenever you have more questions, you know where to find me.